Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Torah Studies. This is exciting. This is our inaugural session of our new summer series of Torah Studies. And format is the same, and everything is going to be as you know it. Zoom link is the same, in-person time and place is the same. We're just learning new parts of the Torah. And this week, the Torah portions, it's a double portion. So if I asked you, what's the Torah portion this week? What's the parsha? That would be a trick question because there's actually two. We get two for the price of one. It's Matot and Maasei. It's the last two Torah portions of the book of Numbers. But who's counting? I'm kidding. Numbers. All right. So last two portions of Dr. Maxey, I see the pain. It hurts me more than it hurts you.
She's a doctor.
Oh, Yaakov said, "You're a doctor. You can, you can fix it." All right. Okay. So last two portions of the book of Numbers this week. This Shabbat, as we read the Torah, we'll close out the book of Numbers. Next week, we begin the book of Deuteronomy, the fifth and final book of the Torah. It's a very special Shabbat this week because it is also the Shabbat that blesses the month of. I didn't say the same word twice there. Of the month of. It's not sounding better as I say it again and again. Otherwise known as Menachem, of which we will get into tonight as well. So it's special Shabbos, and I feel like, whenever we're studying, first of all, whenever we're all together studying, that's already a special moment, a special occasion. Let alone when we're studying Torah and the parasha, that is tremendous. Let alone this Shabbat with all of the connections. Shabbat Chazak, we call it Chazak. Chazak means strength, which we recite as the Torah, as the book of Torah is concluded. Everyone proclaims in unison in the synagogue, Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek. Be strong, and may we be strengthened. And that is indeed our hope and our wish for all of us as we close out a book and begin a new one. So I want to focus tonight. We're going to focus on one specific episode in this week's Torah portions, plural, that is noteworthy and super special to focus on. I want to begin not with that episode to kind of get everyone into the hemshech, into the progression. Matot, the first of the two portions, opens up with a discussion about the laws of nidarim. Nidarim are oaths or vows. Basically, when a person says, I pledge to do X, Y, and Z, or more specifically in the context of a neder, it's not pledging to do something. It's pretty much a pledge of abstention. I promise or I pledge that I will not do something. So that, the Torah says, is binding. But there are certain exceptions, certain instances in which a person can annul the vow. There is an annulment of the vows, and it's a specific protocol that the Torah details, and that is how the Torah portion of Matot opens. Immediately following that, the Torah segues into a discussion of a call for battle against the Midianites. Who were the Midianites? They were the nation that provoked the Jewish people. How many weeks ago in the Torah portion? It must have been 2 weeks ago. So if you recall, and a lot of us were studying together then, 2 weeks ago, the Torah portion was Balak, and we read about the king of Moab, a guy named Balak, who's paranoid, he's afraid, he thinks that the Jewish people are going to attack his land, so he hires this this evil prophet, $5 billion, right, whatever, like this evil prophet guy, and he hires him to curse the Jewish people. It doesn't work out for him because the curses turn into blessings. But before the prophet leaves, he says, I have a piece of advice. If you want to get the Jewish people, entice them into immorality and idolatry, and they do that. And the Midianite women, young women, are the ones that are seducing the Jewish men. The Midianite men send the women go willingly, etc. It's a collective experience of sin on behalf of the Midianites to entice the Jewish men into sin, and a plague breaks out, and many Jews are killed in that plague. And as the Torah details continues in our Torah portion, it's at this point that God tells Moses, it's time for some, as they say in the South, maybe, I'm not sure, some comeuppance. Do they use that? Is that a phrase that's used? Comeuppance? Yeah. It's probably a better, a more colorful phrase, but that's the only thing I can think of right now. It's time for payback, right? Slow down the scene, a little slow-mo action, some wind in the hair, right? Some dramatic music. It's time for some good old-fashioned ancient Israelite payback against the Midianites. So God says to Moses, it's time to go to battle. Moses tells the people, it's time to go to battle. They go to battle, and indeed, they push back to defeat the Midianites who had provoked them, who had started up with them. But we find something interesting in this narrative, which we are going to read in a second. So, Yaakov, I'm going to ask you to read text 1, but hold on. Let me get this. Let me make sure that I have this up on the screen. Here we go, one sec. And we are live. Okay, Yaakov, please take it away. Text number 1, Numbers chapter 31, the first 4 verses.
God spoke to Moses, saying, "Take revenge for the children of Israel against the Midianites. Afterward you shall be gathered to your people." So Moses spoke to the people, saying, "Arm from among you men for the army that they can be against Midian, and carry out the revenge of God against Midian. 1,000 for each tribe, 1,000 for each tribe. From all the tribes of Israel you shall send into the army."
Okay, so thank you for reading that. There's a bunch of pieces, a bunch of points that I want to mention, highlight. So stick with that text. Let's look at it together. So first of all, look at verse number 2. So we have here a clear description of what is this battle, what is this engagement against Midian. This is revenge. This is payback, as I said before, comeuppance. There's also another interesting thing. God says to Moses, lead this battle, and then afterwards you will be gathered to your people, which in English probably makes no sense, but in Hebrew, especially in the Torah language, that is a phrase that is always used to refer to death. Afterwards you'll be gathered to your people. Doesn't mean they're going to give you a hero's welcome, ticker tape parade, right, held on people's shoulders with confetti falling, victorious, we won. That's not what that means, gather to your people. It means gather to your people, i.e. underground, to your ancestors, because you will pass away and be buried, and laid to rest. So that is the message. Basically, God is telling Moses, this is your final act of leadership. You're going to lead this battle against Midian, and afterwards, that's it. This is your final achievement. So that's point number 1, or point 1 and 2. Next, Moses tells the people, he conveys God's message, basically saying, let's go. And they select how many soldiers, as you see here, 1,000 for each tribe, 1,000 for each tribe, which of course totals 12,000 soldiers in this battle. However, there is an anomaly that jumps out, and I'm not sure if anyone, I've been doing a lot of talking, so I'm not sure if anyone had a chance to actually, focus on the reading. Did you notice an anomaly, something, an inconsistency in the text? I'll highlight. Take a look at verse 2, and verse number 3. Who is the war avenging? Whose honor is it avenging? What does God say?
Children of Israel.
Right? You're taking vengeance for the children of Israel, protecting the people's honor. When Moses conveys the message to the people, what does he say?
God.
Carry out the revenge of God against Midian. In other words, whose honor are we protecting? God. So it's interesting. There's a little bit of an inconsistency here. God says, go to war. Why? To avenge what was done to the people of Israel. And Moses says to the people of Israel that we're going to war, we're going to battle to avenge God's honor. Which one is it? Is it the people's honor or is it God's honor? And I know what you're thinking. The easy answer is both. Right? The easy answer is both. Right? The people were harmed. They were tricked. They were not tricked. They were seduced into sin. God was wrong because his people were seduced into sin. So it's we call this in Yiddish a chalent. A chalent means it's a mix. It's that party was wrong. That party was wrong. So they're all in it together. But it is a little strange. It is a little strange that God, as God describes the purpose of this battle, God says that this is to exact revenge against what was done to the people. And when Moses, who is the faithful representative of God, if we believe that Moses is modifying things, then we're all in trouble, right? Then what do we do? What are we even doing, right? If Moses is modifying, then Judaism, yeah, you might as well just pack up your bags and then nothing means anything. Moses is the faithful conveyor of Torah, if that's the case. So why does Moses switch and say, this is not about the vengeance, the revenge of the Jewish people. It's about God's honor. What's going on? Is it people's honor, God's honor? I once saw, by the way, we're going to answer this question today. Don't worry. But I'll throw in another insight. I once saw read a beautiful insight that said, isn't this the ultimate argument? It's like, the argument of who, imagine you have a couple, right? You have a husband and wife, and something happens, one of them makes a mistake, or maybe they both make a mistake, and something happens negatively to the both of them. And each one is saying, I'm so sorry what happened to you. And the other one's saying, I'm so sorry what happened to you. Everyone's worried about the other guy. So God's worried about us. Moses is worried about God. No one's worried about themselves. Everyone's like, oh, it's for the other one. Like, I love you more than I love myself even. So it's a beautiful thing. It's very romantic. It's a very romantic type of argument. It's the best type of argument, right? Each one is more concerned about how the other feels than self. So God's not like, oh, I'm offended. And Moses like, no, I'm offended. No, everyone's like, I'm going to stand up for you. No, I'm going to stand up for you. So everyone's standing up for the other guy. So that's a beautiful fight, right? Fighting for the other one, not against the other one. So that's one message. But we're going to go in a little bit of a different angle tonight and explore this. Yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
Looking at verse 3.
Yes.
Moses is saying, so you can carry out, as he's talking to the people.
Yes.
So you can carry out the revenge of God. Somewhere I seem to remember learning that to the extent there's any theology in the Old, the Old Testament of the Torah.
Yeah.
It's that God is the power behind most, if not all, of what Israel does. And so here, I'm just wondering whether or not there could be some of that here.
Interesting.
That Moses is acknowledging that God will be the power, the force behind the taking of the revenge by the
Interesting.
people.
Okay, so Bill, let me share that with everybody. Make sure that everybody got what you were saying. So Bill is suggesting when Moses says in verse 3, arm from among you, says to the people, arm from among you men for the army that they can be against Midian, to carry out the revenge of God against Midian. So maybe we can read that revenge of God, not that we're protecting God on some level, but revenge of God, meaning God is the driving force of everything we do. Therefore, it's the revenge of God, i.e. with God's help. I like that. We're going to go in a bit of a different direction, but that's great. By the way, it says with Torah, as we've discussed many times, Shiv'im panim la Torah. There's 70 faces or facets of Torah, which means so many different ways, so many different angles to explain any given verse. So here we go. So that's certainly a good angle. Before I get to the angle that we're going to take tonight, that we're going to develop tonight, and it's going to be a bit of a development, I want to ask another question. And the next question, we're going to ask 3 questions today. Almost Passover. If I have one more question, might as well break out the matzah. Okay, second question is along the same lines, and I already highlighted or previewed this idea that this Shabbat is Shabbat Mevarchim. It's the Shabbat that blesses. In other words, it's the Shabbat before the first day of the month of the next Jewish month, which is the month of Menachem Av. Now, in most places, well, many places, the month is known as Av. It's the name of the month. Why is it called Av? I don't know. Like, why is Tammuz Tammuz? That's the month we're in right now. It's just the name, and every month has a name, and that's it. So the next month is Av, but many people call it Menachem Av. Menachem Av. Now, if you look at the Hebrew words, Av means, what does Av mean, or Av? Abba, father. Okay, father. And many people append Menachem before the word Av. Menachem Av. Menachem means, what Menachem means? Nichum Avelim. What is Nichum Nechama?
Comfort.
Comfort. Good. Comfort. Compassion. Comfort. Comfort. So Menachem Av is, if you want to translate it literally, means comforting the father. Now, what happened in the month of Av? What happens in the month that we're getting ready to enter? We know that the Tisha B'Av, exactly, the saddest day of the Jewish calendar, of the entire, full year of events and, special days, the very saddest day, the lowest day of the Jewish calendar is in this month that's coming up, the 9th day of Av, Tisha B'Av. What happened on Tisha B'Av? Both holy temples were destroyed. Hundreds of years, centuries apart, they happen to be, I say happen in quotes because certainly everything is divinely orchestrated. Both holy temples in Jerusalem were razed to the ground, burnt to ashes on the same Hebrew date, the 9th of Av. the Spanish Inquisition. Of course, I'm sure. Well, actually, I'm not so sure because there were always Jews involved in unfortunately, various positions. But King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, the English date that they selected in 1492 to be the last date of which the Jews had to leave, by that, the date that they had to be gone by, that was the Hebrew date was the 9th day of Av. And there were many, many tragedies. You can Google it. Many tragedies in Jewish history happened on the 9th day of Av. The first tragedy that happened, it's important to remember this. We spoke about this a few weeks ago in the Torah reading, the Torah portion of Shlach. The spies, remember the spies? Moses sends 12 spies. 10 of 12 come back with a negative report about the land. We have no chance. There are giants. The cities are fortified. We're goners. They're going to swallow us up alive. Blah, blah, blah. And the people were crying. Why did you take us out of Egypt to slaughter us in the desert? We're goners. We're infant. Oh, it's terrible. God said that day was the 9th day of Av. That was the first calamity that happened. And the Midrash says that it's as if God said, oh, you're crying for no reason. All right. History will give you a reason to cry on this day. And this becomes the saddest day on the calendar. So the month of Av, therefore, is associated. The highlight, as it were, of the month is really a low light. Right? It's not a highlight, it's really a sad day. So it's a month in which, because of the sadness, we're all in, and because of the mourning, literal mourning. The 9th of Av, it's a fast day, and the custom is not to wear leather shoes. The custom is to sit on a low chair. It's like we're sitting Shiva. It's like, when God forbid a loved one passes away and we're mourning their loss. It's not exactly like that, but it's a mini version of that on a collective national scale. And by the way, the message is that, it's rumored, speaking of the Olympics in France, which, I referenced that before because of Danny's background. So it's interesting. There's a rumor or a story that goes that Napoleon was once walking back in the day. Napoleon, right? The guy who they named the dessert after. So Napoleon was walking through the Jewish quarter, and in I guess Paris, and he hears crying and lamenting and wailing coming from the synagogue. He says, "What's going on? And why are the lights low? Because we dim the lights on Tisha B'Av." So he was told by one of his folks that it's the day of Tisha B'Av. What's that? It's National Day of Mourning. What are they mourning? The destruction of the temple. When was it destroyed? About when did Napoleon live? What century? 1800s. 1800 years ago. He is rumored to have said, a nation, a people that never forget their pain are guaranteed, or never forget their past, are guaranteed to have a future. Something along those lines. That was Napoleon. Not that we need Napoleon's stamp of approval for the Jewish spirit being alive, but that's a little bit about Tisha B'Av. So when we think about the month of Av, obviously what we're looking for is a little bit of menachem, a little bit of nechama, a little bit of comfort in all of our pain. Comes along the name of the month, Menachem Av, and what are we saying? Comfort the Father. And once again, we have the same questions we asked before. One second. Who needs comforting? The Father or us? What do you mean? It's like the same question we had before about the war. God says, fight this battle, engage in this war in order to avenge the loss to the Jewish people. And Moses switched it around. No, it's about God. God's making it about us, and Moses makes it about God. Now, I didn't ask the question fully. What I meant to ask before is, one second, if Moses wants to inspire the people, it would be, you would think, more impactful to speak on their level. These guys wronged you. They messed with you. It's time for revenge. That's how to rally a crowd. You tell them that God is upset. All right. Sure. Can't he figure it out himself? But you tell me that I'm avenging my own provocation. Now I'm in. Make it relevant, make it personal. So that's the question about the original story. And we can ask the same question here. When we think about Menachem Av, it should be Menachem Ben. Ben is the son, right? The child. It should be about comforting the child, not comforting the parent. Yeah, sure, God experiences loss, right? Sure, that's a thing, that God experiences loss, as we have loss. But why is it? Why is it that the focus is on God being comforted and not on us. It would seem that we would need more comfort than God needs comfort. Make sense? Second question? Okay. Third question has to do with prayer. When it comes to prayer, the basic meaning and definition of prayer is to pray for our requests for what we need. Let's take a look at this in text number 3. All right, I'm going to share my screen, and Julie, you're up. If you wouldn't mind, please read text. We're skipping text 2. You can please read text number 3. This is coming from Maimonides in his Mishneh Torah Laws of Prayer. So this is from one of the earliest codes of law.
This commandment obligates each person to offer supplication and prayer every day, the utter praises of the Holy One, blessed be He, then petition for all of his or her needs with requests and supplications, and finally to give praise and thanks to God for the goodness He has bestowed upon him or her, each one according to their own ability.
Thank you. And I want to just break that down as well, because I want to make sure we catch every nuance over here of this text. Maimonides, he writes beautifully, and he explains the basic commandment or obligation of prayer. What is prayer and what is the obligation? No, the obligation is not to say a bunch of words on the page. That is not the mitzvah of tefillah, the mitzvah of prayer. What the mitzvah is to offer, he says, supplication and utter praises, and then petition for what you need, and finally to give praise and thanks. Okay, so there's 4 pieces: supplication, or maybe 3. Supplication and prayer. Yeah, that's 1. Praises is 2. Petition is 3, and praise and thanks is 4. So 4 parts of prayer. And when you look at the Siddur, the prayer book, we cover all 4. But certainly prayer is a very personal experience where you're thinking about your supplication, the offering of your soul to God, almost, where you're opening yourself up. You're offering praise. You are, which means that you're acknowledging the blessings that you have. Although, well, that's the last thing. Praises in general about God's greatness. Then you ask for what you need, and then you praise and thank God for the blessings in your life. So all of that is included in the in the liturgy of prayer. But the point really here is that prayer is a very personal experience where you're opening up your heart and speaking to God. However, that being said, take a look at text number 4, because text 4 is a very interesting text where we have a mystical perspective of prayer. And just to give you a little bit of background on text 4 is authored by the Rabbi Dover of Mizrich, who's also known as the Maggid of Mizrich. Who was the Maggid of Mizrich? He was the 2nd generation within the Chasidic movement. The Chasidic movement was founded by Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov in the 1600s into the 1700s, but 1600s. And the Baal Shem Tov had many disciples. The greatest and the one who kind of took over the mantle of leadership of the Chasidic movement was Rabbi Dober of Mizrich, known as the Mizricher Maggid, the preacher or the order of Mizrich. And he was very charismatic and dynamic. He also had a number of students, each of which opened up kind of their own Chasidic dynasty, one of them, which is Chabad. So Chabad is the 3rd, it starts from the 3rd generation of the Chasidic masters. So look, yeah.
Is he considered,
The Maggid?
Yeah, Rabbi Dover, is he considered the primary successor to the Baal Shem Tov?
Yes.
From the other Hasidic dynasties as well, because all the Hasidic dynasties came from Baal Shem Tov, right?
And came through the Maggid. Yes, they all come from the Baal Shem Tov through the Maggid of Mizrich.
And then he was.
So it was basically the Baal Shem Tov,
Yeah.
the Maggid. It was very consolidated, and the Maggid had many students.
Then it split off from the
Yeah, and there are many students. So all the major Hasidic dynasties, think of a tree, like branch of a tree, are all branches from the Maggid of Mizrich. It's interesting. The Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad, Rabbi Shneur Zalman Liadi, he was the youngest of all the students, and he's the founder of Chabad. But you have all the major ones. I mean, there are many branches over the years, so it's not like all of the Hasidic dynasties that exist today originate in one of the original branches, but they're a branch of a branch of a branch, perhaps. Okay, so with that in mind, let's take a look at how the Maggid speaks of prayer in a mystical sense. Take it away, Bill. Hold on, give me 1 second. Yeah, ready to roll. Text 4.
Text 4 starting here or at the top?
where it says, this is how, yeah, at the top.
Start in Hebrew.
Okay. This is how a person should behave as they stand before God in prayer. Their sole intention should be to bestow energy into the Shekinah.
Yep.
This then is what the Talmud states. One may only stand and pray with a seriousness, for example, heavy head, in other words, the head of all heads, God. Though a Jew requests that their own needs, they should have in mind that God on high should lack nothing.
Thank you. So the Maggid says that when a person prays, a person should be thinking about what God needs. Yeah, you're also asking about what you need, but primarily it's about that God should have everything that God needs. Now, on many levels, this raises eyebrows. First of all, who says God needs anything? Who says God's lacking anything? We might lack something. We might need more health. We might need more nachas. We might need more parnasa. There's a lot of things that we might need. But God's missing something. What does that mean? Well, listen, don't shoot the messenger. This is what the Maggid says, that God on some level has needs, and we should be when we pray, we should be thinking about fulfilling God's needs. And yeah, we're also asking for our needs, but the main intention should be God's needs. And he says that's the meaning of what the Talmud says. Ein omdin lehitpalel ela mitoch kavod rosh. Because a person should not begin to pray until they have literally what it means is a heaviness of head. Doesn't mean you have a headache. What it means is a seriousness, where you have a kind of an intellectual seriousness. You approach it from a serious place, not from a frivolous, let's pray. It's from a serious place. But he explains that kavod rosh, seriousness of the head, means that the intensity of prayer is because you're focusing on the head, i.e. God, as opposed to self. So I need to explain, I need to just clarify how divergent this approach to prayer is from the typical approach, which we read in text number 3 from Rambam Maimonides. Maimonides says that when you pray, you're thinking about yourself. You're thinking about how great God is to you. You're thinking about your own supplication. You're thinking about what you need. You're thanking God for your blessings. It's very much a personal, tailored experience about what I need, what I have, what I'm grateful for, etc. It's about me. It comes along the Maggid Mizrich. He's like, no, it's not about you. Prayer is not about you. Yeah, you're also asking for what you need. Yeah, but what you really mean is you're thinking about what God needs. Which one is it? Is it about me or about God? And you know what? It's the same question we asked before. Is it about us? Is it about God? Is the war against Midian about us or is it about God? Is Menachem Av, is the comfort of this month? Are we asking for comfort for us, for our loss, for us losing the temple, for us being kicked out of our land, for us, for many years, for us, right, being exiled and thus being under the sovereignty of other nations under whose rule we've been persecuted and beaten and murdered, right, and executed. Countless millions and millions of our people have been brutally executed because we weren't in our own land. So you would think that the comfort of Av should be about our loss. We lost the temple. We lost our sovereignty. We lost our protection. We lost our land, right? We didn't lose it, but we were displaced. So you would think it's about us. No, it's about God. Menachem Av, we say Menachem Av. God should be comforted. God should be comforted. Thank you very much. We need comfort. And then we have prayer, the third question. Is prayer about what we need or about what God needs? So you have 3 questions that are really one question. Is it about us or is it about God? And why are we making it about God if it's really, the ancient war against Midian seems to be about us primarily. We were the one that were enticed into sin. We were the one that felt the brunt of that plague, right? When it comes to Menachem Av, the month of Av, the destruction of the temple, we seem to have bore the brunt of that loss of the temple and the exile, diaspora experience. And when it comes to prayer, it seems to be that the main focus is on what we need and what we want, as opposed to what God needs, what God wants. And yet we find in all 3 cases, there is also this concurrent focus on God. It's
Rabbi?
God's. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No worries.
Could one use the quote, to explain this, like who needs the comfort? Shiviti Hashem lenegdi tamid. So we're kind of equal on a certain level in terms of each one wanting what the other wants, or I should say, we want to satisfy what they want, the other wants, and the other one wants to satisfy what we want.
Yeah, you could say that. You could say that. You could say that we're focused on God and God is focused on us. And I mentioned this before, that it's like, it's a beautiful relationship that everyone is focused on the other. And it's a valid approach.
Sure.
And you could even take it a step further. You know what? Let's read one more text along those lines. Take a look. We're skipping text 5 and let's go to text number 6. And this is a quote from Deuteronomy. Give me 1 second. Hold on, Tova, before you read. Let me pull this up. Text number 6. It's a quick one.
You are children to God.
You are children to God. There you go. And what does that mean? Along the lines of what Phyllis was saying, you're children to God means that we're a very tight relationship. So what pains a child would pain the parent, right? Think about it, right? I mean, in a healthy situation, if the child is suffering, the parent's also suffering. So when we talk about menachem of, we're comforting God. Well, God lost the temple. We lost the temple, but that also hurts God. Prayer, we're lacking something. God's also feeling it. So you could say that's the intention, right? Text number 7, you know what, because that was short. Read this one as well, Mishnah Sanhedrin.
Rabbi Meir said, when a person is in pain, what does the Shekhinah say? My head hurts, my arm hurts.
By the way, isn't that beautiful? Isn't that really beautiful? This is not Kabbalah. This is not like, it's a mystical text that you have to like have some sort of mystical background. This is the Mishnah. This is straight up Tractate Sanhedrin. The law, this is the laws of the court system, the legal system. It says when a person is in pain, what does the Shekhinah? Shekhinah is the divine presence, God's presence. What does the divine presence say? My head hurts, my arm hurts. Who's the my? They say about, who was it? A rabbi in Israel. He was like, then the 20th century, one of the mid-20th century, one of the big rabbis in Israel, says that he walked into the doctor once with his wife, and he told, and his wife, because his wife her leg was hurting, so he walks in and he says, "Our leg is hurting." And he said, "Our leg is hurting." That's how I've heard that story used as like how much he loved it, how much he like identified with his wife, that he, how much he empathized or felt her pain was his pain. So that's kind of like what we're saying. When we're in pain, the Shekhinah says, God's presence says, my head hurts, my arm hurts. It's like God is feeling our pain. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And that could answer the question. Why is it that, again, just go through, I don't mean to belabor by going through it again, but just going through quickly, if prayer is about my needs, why am I thinking about what God needs? The Maggid says, think about what God needs, because when we need something, God also needs it. For us, if we're lacking health, God's arm is also hurting. God's head is also hurting. So we're praying for God, meaning we're praying for us, but that's also going to solve God's problem, who's feeling our problem. Or menachem av, if we're asking for God to rebuild the temple, to restore us to our land in peace and sovereignty and security and all the blessings that we want, right, for the people and for the land. Yeah, great. So we're asking for us, but we're also saying menachem av. If we're comforted, then you, our Father, will also be comforted. The problem with this explanation, and this is sound, it works. The problem is, it's not exactly what all these texts that we quoted before were saying. The Maggid didn't say, pray for yourself, and by virtue of you fulfilling what you need or getting what you need, God's lack or God will also be fulfilled. No, the Maggid said, pray for God's needs. Or menachem av is comforting God directly, not comforting you and then God will be comforted, but comforting God. And the first question we had about the war against Midian, Moses says, we're avenging God's honor, not your honor that God also feels, God wants to back up your honor. So by avenging yourself, you're avenging God. No, he's saying directly avenging God's honor. So that brings us back to our question, which one is it? Is it us or God? And how do both work together? And yes, if we are God's children, which we are, then there is that tight relationship, but it still seems to be a little bit more than that simple answer. And so, my friends, at this point, we're going to delve deeper and much deeper. And really, the true way to do this would be to pause and to give everybody homework studying lots of Kabbalistic texts and Chasidic texts, study a few books, and then we can come back and reconvene. So what I'm going to do instead of that is in the next 20 minutes, try to give you a Kabbalistic primer into the architecture of the universe. So here we go, right? The question of how did we get here and how was the world created? All right, buckle up because it's about to get kind of crazy. Now, a lot of what I'm about to say, I would say a lot of you, even just me and you, we've discussed a lot of these concepts before, but I'm going to try to weave it together in a coherent narrative that gives both a big picture and a direct picture to address the questions that we've asked. So here we go. So we believe, Judaism believes, Kabbalah expounds upon this idea that God created the world, but not only the physical world, God created the entire universe, heaven and earth, spiritual and physical, right? So there's an entire structure or hierarchy of existence, and beginning from the spiritual realms, Kabbalah explains that there are 4 spiritual worlds, or 4 worlds altogether: the world of Atzilut, the world of emanation, the world of Bria, the world of creation, the world of Yetzirah, the world of formation, and the world of Asiya, the world of action. 4 worlds. We're at the bottom end of the world of Asiya, action. By the way, there is a pop quiz at the end of tonight's class. This will count on your permanent record. Only number 2 pencils will be used. I'm kidding. So there's 4 spiritual worlds: Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, Asiya, emanation, creation, formation, and action. We are at the lower half, the physical side of the world of action. That's where we exist. Within our world, there's an entire taxonomy of creation, of life within our world. So let's focus now on that. Within our world, oh, and by the way, like angels and souls, disembodied souls, i.e. before birth or after death, they exist in the worlds of Yetzirah or Bria, higher realms. That's where angels hang out and spirits hover, etc. Okay, fine. Let's talk about our world for a second. In our world, there is a taxonomy as well, and I'm using the word taxonomy because that's how science refers to it. Taxonomy, there's different layers of life. So in science, when I was a kid in school, growing up in Pittsburgh, so we learned that there are 3 kingdoms of life. There's inanimate life, vegetation, and animal life. That was it. What is inanimate? It's earth, rocks, anything that doesn't move, doesn't speak, doesn't grow, just sits there. Then you have vegetation, things that grow. Then you have animals, and human beings are mushed into that category of animals. We're a more evolved animal. This is what we learned in science class. Now, Judaism has a bit of a slightly different take, pretty much the same, but slightly different, maybe very different, where you have inanimate, yes, then you have vegetation, yes, animal, yes, but then there's a 4th category, which is human. So Judaism differs in that the human is not lumped together with the animals. Human is a separate category. So it's in the Hebrew, domain, inanimate, someach, vegetation, chai, animal, and medaber, the communicator, the speaker, the human being. That's the 4th level. Now, what distinguishes, and you might be thinking, what are we doing talking about all this? Don't worry, we will loop everything in.
Do other religions have the same 4 categories?
I believe that many philosophies have the same 4. It's pretty much when you look at the ground and you just go up, that's what the earth, vegetation, and it's even the cycle of life. Think about it, like the earth sustains vegetation, vegetation sustains animals, and if you eat meat, right, then animals sustain humans. But again, animals, some end with animal, and we go to the human, and that's a whole thing. That's, for reasons that it's not the focus tonight. But really what I want to focus on is this point. What distinguishes one category or kingdom of life from the other? It's really as to how much life it kind of exhibits. That's a perfect word, exhibits. So the lowest level, as it were, which is inanimate life, exhibits really no life. If you see a stone, see a rock sitting there, hold on one second. Here we go. If you see a rock sitting there, right, just on the ground, a pebble, a stone, it doesn't even look alive. It's just there, right? You pick it up, there's no heartbeat, there's no growth, doesn't change, doesn't roll, right? It's not like rock and roll is actually a rock that rolls. Doesn't do anything. It just seems like a dark and stormy night at this point, right? It doesn't seem to be doing anything. It seems dead. Now, Kabbalah says, no. Dead? Everything that exists has a soul, even a stone. that doesn't move, that's seen, that's silent and quiet. Let alone, look, I know you Yaakov, you do a lot, you do kayaking, right? You're on that river. You're on the river. The river's alive. That's for sure. The river's alive. I mean, I wouldn't swim in Paris in that river. That's how did you pronounce it?
The same.
The same.
Seine, whatever, however you pronounce it. I wouldn't go there. But Chattahoochee, you've been in Chattahoochee, right?
I was on the Nantahala 2 days ago.
There you go, right? I know my customers. I know you're out there. Now, when you're out there, you're communing with nature. It's alive. I mean, that river, I don't know that river specifically, but rivers are alive. I mean, they're moving. There's an energy in that water. But I'm not talking, water is also inanimate. But forget water. The stone on the side, the stone that's not doing anything. You think it's dead? No, it's alive. But it doesn't exhibit outwardly signs of life. Other than the fact that it exists, it doesn't exhibit, doesn't pulse, it doesn't move. You pick it up, you don't feel a heartbeat. It doesn't vibrate with life unless you're tuned into it, but otherwise it doesn't outwardly manifest. Now, you look at a plant, well, that definitely manifests life or exhibits life. I mean, you plant something, it's growing. Trees are growing, it's moving. Wow, that's a lot. You cannot deny that that's alive. You absolutely cannot deny that. That's definitely alive, exhibits. Animals, even more so. Animals don't just grow from small to big. They also move laterally. They're not, I mean, look, trees are stuck, right? If a tree is moving, you got more serious problems. I mean, you got to check that out. If your tree is moving around, trees are not moving, or you're in a kid's play and, little Jimmy as the tree is wandering off stage. But either way, it's like trees. So again, just let's do this quickly. So stones don't move and don't grow. They don't go bigger. They don't move around. Vegetation goes from small to big, but it's rooted in one place. Animals grow. They start off small. They get bigger. Anybody into dogs here? You guys, is anybody familiar with the breed called Bichon Frise?
Yeah.
Yes. You have or had? Had. Super cute, right?
Oh, so.
Super cute. My daughter's into them.
Oh, yeah.
She saw a few videos on YouTube. That's it. She is done. She's hook, line, and sinker. Yeah, the one's in like a teacup.
Yeah.
She shows it to me. I'm like, actually, I may reconsider everything. When I say reconsider everything, we don't need a dog. We have plenty of moving creatures in the house right now. But anyway, moving along. So we got our fish instead. Super cute. I always wonder about fish. I always wonder. I feel like I told her this morning. I told not the fish, not speaking to the fish, but I told my daughter this morning, like, I don't know. I'm empathizing with this fish. No friends, right? And just in the same, I feel bad for fish. Doesn't even have a name. We just call it fish.
Give him a friend.
No. So she said we tried in school. She tells me, I'm like, why don't we get another fish? She's like, no. They put another fish. This almost killed the other. Beta. How'd you know?
Because they kill each other.
Yeah.
There you go.
They're territorial.
That was pretty good. Look at you.
Yeah.
Fish whisperer, you. All right, back to the story. Every advancement, when you go up the ladder, as it were, of this taxonomy, of these categories, these kingdoms of life, so it just exhibits more life. Stones, not much. Vegetation, yeah, it's growing. Animals moving around, being super cute. Oh, Bichon Frise starts off small, ends up also kind of small, but a little bigger than it started, right?
Where's the life in stones? I don't see.
Say it
I
again.
don't get it. Where's the life in stones?
Oh, so you might not be able to see it, but the fact that it exists,
It gives life. It's minerals.
well, mineral also gives life, but no, the very fact that it exists means it has a soul. Everything, if it exists,
Huh?
if it is, it's got a soul. Now, it doesn't have the same soul as a vegetation, as a someach soul. A vegetative soul powers it. It's like coding. It's like not COATING, CODING. Coding, it's how it's coded. A stone is coded to be alive, just do this. It's like Minecraft. Everything's a box, a block, right? Then you have vegetation. It's coded to grow. Animals are coded to grow and move around. And humans, to think, to speak, get into trouble, right? That's our programming. And that's, by the way, the only.
What is AI?
Oh, look at you. I don't even know how to answer the question.
Good
I don't think
question.
anyone knows what AI is. What is AI? Is it really intelligent? Is it
Artificial.
pretending it's intelligent? The name itself is a paradox. Artificial, not real. Intelligence, it is real. Which, make up your mind. Is it A or I? So look, let's save that because I actually have in mind we're going to do an AI panel. We're going to have an AI forum, AI in Judaism. So that's coming soon to a Torah Center near you. So hang tight. I don't have a quick answer. I don't even have a long answer for you. It's something that I've thought about as well. But here's the point. Here's the big idea. That life exists, and all life is a product of divine energy, right? Flowing into that thing. That's the soul of a thing is really God's life force flowing through the stone. It's not moving it around, not growing it, but it's there. It's keeping it from collapsing and or disappearing. Then you have this divine life force in a plant, a tree growing. Life force in a puppy, moving, growing, eating, wagging, being cute, all that stuff, right? And then you have the divine life force in a human also allowing a human to do all the things, 5 senses, creative intelligence, communication, empathy, etc., all that good stuff for the better. And of course, as we know, for the worse. Now, above people, there are angels, spirits and souls and all that good stuff. And the way it works is the higher on this food chain, or not even food chain, the higher on this life chain it is, the higher it is on the ladder, the more it embodies or reveals or represents or exhibits or displays, reveals divine energy. In other words, the more life it reveals, the more it says, I have a creator that gives me life. Look, I'm doing all these things. As opposed to a stone, it's not doing much. However, and we would say the more intelligence a being has, the more awareness it can have of its creator, which means that as the awareness, or as the life, the higher form of life we're talking about, the more evolved it is in its perception of the force that creates it. So humans can have a more evolved or advanced awareness of the divine over perhaps other creatures. And angels and souls above certainly have a heightened sense of closeness to God. However, with all that being said, this is where I pull the rug, other shoes dropping, etc. Who's counting shoes? But here we go. There's a shoe in the rug, and we need to shake it out. So here we go. Here we go. So check this out. This is the big idea. There's 2 types of intelligence. There's learned intelligence and innate intelligence. Learned intelligence means that you have a thing, a being, a life force, and then it's learning about something else, which implies that the thing, or let's say the subject, and the object that it's learning about are 2 distinct things. So you have, person A learning about subject B. There's a distance, there's a gap, there's a distance between the two, and the knowledge of, or awareness of, or intelligence about, that is what's bridging the two, but they're not the same thing. That's all what I would call a learned intelligence, where the intelligence is not natural or innate. I'm learning about you. I don't know you. I'm learning about you because we're not one and the same. However, there's something that we would call perhaps innate intelligence. And innate intelligence means the way you know yourself is not because someone told you about you. It's because you know how you feel from the inside out. You know because you are part of that organic body. You are part of that. Your cells are your cells. You don't have to learn about, my foot. I've noticed that you stubbed your toe in the chair. I know I'm speaking like this weirdly, but right. I stubbed my toe. I look down. Oh, it's like the cartoon, where the guy runs off the cliff, Wile E. Coyote, and then is like hanging out midair. All is cool. Looks around, pauses. Oh, right. That's how that works. A little bit of a little time lapse, little delay over there. That's not how it works with us. You stub your toe, you know immediately. Why? You didn't learn. It's not like your brain learned about your toe. Your brain and your toe are sharing the same DNA. It's sharing the same. Now, look, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physiologist, I don't know the physiology exactly, but this is my understanding, certainly based on Kabbalistic teachings, that it's an innate knowledge or an innate intelligence as opposed to a learn. You're not learning about something, you innately feel it. And here's the big idea. Our relationship with God. There is one, this is what Kabbalah teaches. There is one being in creation that has an innate intelligence, innate godly intelligence. And it's going to surprise you. It's not angels. Angels and God are not the same thing. And angels they're aware of God, but God is something else other than the angel. Angels learning about or aware of God. It's not souls above. It's not anything else. The one thing in this world that has an innate awareness, knowledge of intelligence about God is, listen to this. But which part of us? Yes, the answer is us. But which part of us? Not the soul. The body. The body, there's a book called The Body Feels, Remembers, Knows, Never Forgets, something like that. There's something about the body's intelligence, right? The trauma the body keeps and saves. But Kabbalah teaches not only about trauma. This is true about God. The body feels God. And the body responds on its own to the divine vibration. Bodies move to the rhythm. I feel like the sun. The rhythm. Right. The body is moving to the divine rhythm. Now, let's take a look. This is some radical stuff. I'm teaching you radical Kabbalah. I don't mean radical like French, but this is like, these are radical ideas. Take a look at text number 10. So beautiful. I know I'm skipping around. I'm going to read some text. Okay. Take a look at text number 10. Okay. Text 10 comes from, let us see. The fifth Chabad Rebbe. The fifth leader of the Chabad Lubavitch dynasty, Rabbi Shalom Dober Schneerson, says the following. It is specifically in the human body where the infinite energy of God's very essence is expressed, but more than expressed, it's where it is felt. In other words, there is an innate intelligence within the human body, not even the soul. The soul knows about God. The body is of, and really the reason for, I haven't really explained the reason for it. It's kind of because the more you learn about something, or the more aware, the more, it's hard to express. I don't think I'm gonna be able to express this in like 2 minutes, but the more you learn about something, the less you feel it viscerally. The less you know about it, the more you can feel it viscerally. It's kind of like if you've created artificial lights, you're not going to see the stars in heaven. If you, in Times Square, you look up, you're going to just see billboards. You're not going to see the stars. Whereas when you turn down the lights, you'll see the stars. It's in the body, the physical body which comes from the earth, the inanimate earth body, that feels God more directly than even the advanced, lofty spiritual soul does. This is, again, one of the radical teachings of Kabbalah. However, but that being said, what that means is, if the body and God are perfectly attuned to each other, which Kabbalah says they are, what that means is when a person's body is in distress, like, for example, if a person is not feeling well, etc., it's an indication that there's somehow something that is also not 100% aligned, as it were, above with God as well. In other words, the reason why we feel out of alignment, let's just say alignment, or out of balance, or out of, or in an imbalanced way or unhealthy way, is because something above is out of balance as well. Let's take a look again, another radical idea. So powerful ideas. This idea is found in text number 11. Take a look at this. When God is in distress, and obviously we have to be careful when we use these types of words. We're not trying to humanize God, but when there's something amiss above with God, it breaks the physical body, or it distresses, rather, the physical body. For God is most associated with the physical body. The essence of God himself most relates to materialism, in other words, the physical body. All other lofty spiritual levels are associated with the soul, but the essence of God himself is associated with the body, for only God himself can create a physical body, again, touching on these deep ideas in Kabbalah and Chasidic philosophy, which we can't fully develop, but hopefully I'm giving you enough of a taste to appreciate this idea. The point is the physical body, human body, is most associated with the essence of God. Think about it. The last element of creation, the lowest element, the last thing created was Adam and Eve. The earth, the body was created from the earth to the ground. So the lowest and last creature, the human body, the body that can wreak the most havoc on planet Earth, right? The body that it reflects and can be the lowest is also, because in a circle, the further you go, back to the beginning you are. So the lowest, the body, is actually connected, touches on the essence of God. And thus, the way God feels, again, I'm using quotes for God, is the way we feel, which means that if we are feeling misaligned, as I said a moment ago, then that means that God on some level is also in that space. Take a look at text 12a along these lines. When we feel distress in our world, which the world is also like a large, a macrocosmic body, right? Just like we have a body, the world itself is also, the physical world is also a body. So when we feel distress in our world, it's an indication, it's an indication of distress on high. As our sage just stated, when a person is in pain, what does the Shekhinah say? My head hurts, my arm hurts. We've read that before, but I think we read it in a different way. We read it as an empathy, as God is empathizing with the human being. But now we're learning it differently. We're saying that, no. When we feel pain, when our head hurts, when our arm hurts, there's something that's also misaligned above, and that's why we feel the pain. This then is what we should be praying for, the needs of God on high. When that need is fulfilled, it will automatically resolve our needs down here, as our needs are a result of God's needs. Solving the need on high automatically solves the need down below. And this, my friends, changes the entire paradigm. Until now, we thought, or in the beginning of the class, or when we were, I guess, halfway through the class, we believed that our experience is our experience, and God might be empathizing with our experience, but really our experience is the primary. But now we're learning that our experience is only a derivative of God's experience, which means the way we feel physically is a derivative of the way of the spiritual energies above. And thus, the real correction, or a primary correction, is on the spiritual side. To put this in very simple terms, and this is something that I think more and more doctors have come on board with, and a theme that we've talked about in other contexts before, most recently, a course that I did a few months ago called Advice for Life. The idea is that physical health is very much bound to our spiritual health. In other words, when you think about now healing and wellness, a major theme of healing and wellness is the positivity, the disposition of the patient. If you put a person in a depressing room with no light and rude staff, they're probably not going to heal as fast as they would be in an encouraging, positive space, because we know that the spiritual, or the spiritual mood of a person affects their physical body, and the same thing is true on a more cosmic level. The way things are above creates the realities below. It's the law of spiritual gravity. What is above comes below, and so if what is below is broken or flawed, it means that it's time to fix something above, to focus on the spiritual in our own lives, and also in the world at large, to endeavor to make the world a better place. And thus, we now have a unique and powerful angle on all three questions that we asked before. To go in reverse order, I'm going to start with question 3 and work our way back. Question 3 was, one second, when it comes to prayer, who are we asking for? Are we petitioning for our needs, or like the Maggid said, are we petitioning for God's needs? And now we have a unique answer to the question. When we focus on God's needs, we will automatically heal our needs. In other words, when we focus on the larger picture, on our spiritual purpose, what God needs means. You think about, why did God create the world in the first place? He created the world and us for us to fulfill our mission to create more light in this world. When we focus on God's needs, in other words, when we think about our spiritual mission, that itself, the focus on the spiritual part, heals automatically the physical. Realigning the spiritual realigns the physical. So that's the third question. Second question, Menachem Av. This is the month in which we mourn the destruction of the two holy temples, which was a major loss to us as a people. Menachem Av means we're trying to comfort God. God, comfort ourselves. What are we comforting God? We recognize that the loss of the temple is not just a physical loss, but it's a loss because in the spiritual realms there was misalignment, and that's what precipitates the physical loss. And so the key is to focus on the spiritual. Spiritual healing leads to physical healing. Spiritual healing leads to physical healing. The Talmud famously says that what was the reason why the second temple was destroyed? Because of baseless hatred. Not because the Romans were stronger than the Jews. It's because we were fighting amongst ourselves.
Might happen again.
I would say in many ways it is happening again. You know, the Rebbe said many times at Rabbeinu, recorded, you could watch it. He said many times that when you have cause and effect, right, this happened, so that happened. I'll give a simple example. It's been raining here. Imagine if you have a small leak in the roof and it's raining.
I just did.
What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Hope they get taken care of. What's going to happen? Water's going to come in. So here, simple. So cause is a hole in the roof. The effect is water in your house. As long as you have water in your house consistently, you know what it means? You still have a hole in your roof, right? And if the water's coming in, it means the cause is still there. It means you still have the hole. The same thing is true in our lives and with the temple. The temple was destroyed because of baseless hatred. If the temple is still not rebuilt, it means that we're still not getting along with each other. It means that the problem is still there. The moment we solve the problem, the moment we patch up the leak, it's not going to leak. The moment we fix the infighting, the moment we'll be healed. By the way, for those that want a deeper look into the conditions on the ground that precipitated the second temple's destruction, i.e. the infighting, I sent out an email on Monday. We just got an unbelievable film that we're going to screen on the day of Tisha B'Av. No worries. On the day of Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. You got it. The night of the day of Tisha B'Av, which is the 13th of August, we are screening a new film, newly released in English language, called Legend of Destruction. It's an unbelievable film that speaks to the conditions on the ground. This is a brand new release in the US, and we are one of the first places to screen it here in Atlanta. So, and putting that out there. But the point is that the spiritual affects the physical. You want to change something down here, change something up there. Change something up there. Change something on a higher realm. So Menachem Av, we recognize that the comfort for us comes through comforting God, as it were. In other words, fixing the spiritual problem, fixing the physical problem. And finally, going back to our Torah portion. When God says, avenge the distress of the Israelites, and Moses says, no, we're going to avenge the distress of God. Now we understand that as well. What does it mean? What it means is very simple. What it means is that when we focus on fixing the spiritual problem, then the physical problem will also be resolved. The problem down here. So here's the bottom line for tonight's class. We spoke about a lot of things. We asked a bunch of questions. We had a lot of Kabbalah in there. But the one message that I think we can all take away is as follows. Spiritual healing brings about physical healing. A healthy soul makes for a healthy body. Knowing our purpose, feeling confident in our mission, waking up each day with purpose is priceless. We look at a generation of people that were raised, right? I say people, kids, whatever it is, not that we're blaming the teenagers, but right, like raised in the 80s or 70s, 80s or 90s version of self-esteem, which is, wow, when you scribble that thing, oh, you're an artist, you're Van Gogh, as we told our kids. They know they're not Van Gogh, and we know they're not Van Gogh, but we were lying to them. That's not self-esteem. That's fake esteem. Real esteem is when you tell your child that you have a role in this world. You have a mission in your life. When you wake up in the morning, there's a reason, there's a purpose, there's a reason to get out of bed, because you can make the world a better place, and God has given you life to make the world a better place. You think about how many kids are disillusioned walking into their schools with firearms and shooting their peers and their teachers. And you think about a kid like that had woke up that day and does not have a reason to live. Felt like there's no purpose, like life is meaningless. The greatest gift we can give to kids and to ourselves, right? It's really to ourselves, right? Is a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning. I wake up in the morning and I have a reason to be here. Because otherwise, why would I get out of bed? Just to go through this again, just to indulge in, I don't know, whatever it is, to consume and scroll another day of scrolling social media or eating another meal or going to, what's the point? Right? It can be very disillusioning. But if I recognize that I'm here for a higher purpose, I'm not here for myself. I'm here for, like Hebrew National, right? I answer to a higher authority, right? Like those hot dogs back in the day. So now I have purpose. And so Moses says to the Jewish people, I know what God said, but I want you to know that if you want to feel like you have a purpose in life, make it about God. Make it about self. I don't know. I'm here for myself. It sounds a little bit boring. How many years can we be here for ourselves? Seriously. But for a purpose, Viktor Frankl knew something about this, right? Logotherapy. You gotta have a why. If you have a why, you can endure anyhow. You gotta have a why. And the Torah encourages us to have a why. All right. So in conclusion, I know I concluded like 3 times, but in the final conclusion, it's all about purpose and meaning and higher values. Spiritual healing brings about physical healing. L'chaim. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers on
Thank
water.
you. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Koach.
Thank you as well.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Beautiful class. Amazing.
Hey, Mariana. How's Chile?
Great. It's very nice. Winter time
Nice.
now.
You know, it's chilly in Chile.
Yes.
Give the family my best. Tell Alex I
Thank
said.
you. The same.
Who didn't I say hi to? Mom, good to see you.
Hi.
Hey, and welcome. I know you were here before. I'm just saying hi now. All right, good. I think that's any questions, comments, rebuttals.
You just said purpose, meaning, and higher.
I don't remember. Oh, what do we need to have? Purpose, meaning, and a sense of a higher calling, maybe? Answering to a higher authority.
Yeah.
It's all focused on the same thing. Something gotta be tethered higher. There's a beautiful story. Oh, I love this story. There was an old Hasidic rabbi, I don't remember who, back in Russia, because all good stories happen back in the shtetl, right? So there's an old Hasidic, and he used to go to mikvah, the ritual bath. Many men have a custom, especially Hasidic men, to go to the mikvah every morning before prayers. Yeah. So right here in the shul, literally right across this wall right here is the men's mikvah. So anyway, that's it. But back in Russia, they went to, I don't know, the lake. Right? They went to the lake. And in the winter, it was like, it wasn't like Chile. It was really chilly. They had to break the ice. They have these like polar bear clubs in New York. They go in the winter. They go swimming for the day, and it becomes a photo op. Yeah, this was like break the ice. Going anyway. So this one rabbi who go to mikveh every day down a steep hill, and oftentimes it was snowy and icy. But every day he went down and he went up back to his house. And everyone, the rumor was, because he was a man of God, and so he had special divine protection, and he somehow would miraculously, all right, Mark, I hope you catch the story, and he miraculously make it down and up. But then there were some cynics, young cynics, miracles. We can go down, and we'll show you that it's not so miraculous. Anyone can do it. They try to go down the same hill, and they slipped, and they hurt themselves badly. Mm-hmm. They felt like they needed to apologize to the rabbi because they were cynical. They came to the rabbi, and they said to the rabbi, okay, so we realize that it is something, but what is it? What is it about it? He said in Yiddish, I'll say the translation in English. He said, when you are tethered above, you don't fall below. That's what he said. That was the line. As when you're tethered, when you're connected to something higher, you can't fall. You can't fall, you're protected. Indeed, may we be connected on high, and then we won't fall. I always think if you're walking a tightrope anyway, what's the harm in putting a harness? No, these guys are like, no, I'm going to go with that one. Come on, be a little sensible. I feel like a Jewish mother here. Tie yourself up a little bit, like put a thing. Anyway, what's the moral of the story? Let's be connected. Let's be connected enough.
I think most of the time it's right, but I think sometimes it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't? Okay. So yes, we don't write the script. So we're following to the best of our ability, but the plot twists, some of them we couldn't have seen coming, and some we don't have control over either. So this is not to suggest that our actions can control everything, that if we push the right buttons, then we are invincible. But it means that we're giving ourselves the best shot,
Right.
a healthier life. And you know what, I will say this, if a person is psychologically and emotionally positive, then even the tsaras, even the bumps in the road,
I can take it better, yeah.
you can deal with it a little bit easier.
Right.
The downs feel a little less down when you're connected, when you have a stronger connection with faith.
Absolutely.
So we have strong faith and no challenges. I mean, as little as possible. Yeah.
So we were talking about a rock, how can it have a soul? So a lot of the dirt, a lot of the rocks were former living people and animals and dirt.
Interesting.
And, there's this whole
Cycle of life.
chain going on. So, millions of years, they call them the ancestors. So where we are, the Appalachians, oldest mountain range in the world. So it's
That's here.
they're humbled.
Yeah.
Here. They're here, the oldest mountain range in the world.
Huh.
So
Who would have thought?
they're average about 4,000 feet high now. Unlike the Rockies, they're really high and they're younger, so there's less. They haven't been worn down. So Everest is 29,100 something feet and growing about an inch a year. These were 40,000 feet high when they started. Now they're 4,000, so they're very, very old. And people, they move to the mountains, and all of a sudden their issues come up, and everything they're confronted with all their dreams and so the basis of these mountains is quartz, and quartz crystals are in watches. Quartz crystals
Countertops.
give you a lot of energy. Quartz crystals have a lot of life to them. So the ancient, when I was researching my novel, and I put it in the novel, that the ancients said the quartz in the mountains take one breath of life every 100 years.
It's beautiful.
It's so cool.
That's beautiful.
So they too realize that there's some sense of the creator's,
The energy, the pulse
in these rocks.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I have heard of it. Wait, isn't there a is quartz is what keeps time? Is that the vibration or something of?
Yeah.
Which is insane. I don't remember looking that up or figuring out how that works. But like that a stone, right? That a piece of the earth
and I don't know
would have like almost like an intelligence.
Right.
Sort of, to be able to accurately
and God
be involved
said,
in time.
boom. And God said,
it's wild.
And is God talking like this when he creates the world, or is he singing and chanting?
But you know what's interesting is
minor
the
is
Arizal, the great Arizal, who spoke about souls and energies. The example that he used to illustrate that everything has a soul, like we discussed before, he used the example of stone. Even an Evan domain, even a silent, still stone has a soul. Of anything he could pick, he could have picked dirt. He picked a stone. And I think there's something about stones that stones have a power. There's an allure to stones. I mean, think about precious stones, or even not so precious stones. Something about stones is very.
Stones on the beach or whatever.
See that?
Yeah, me too. And if
See
you're let's say you have a loved one that passes away and you're very upset at the funeral, you put your hand on a rock and you will get very calm.
You know what's interesting about that? There's a
Very
custom to put a
put
pebble, to
stones
put a
on.
stone on top of the marker, the grave,
Yeah, that's
the
right.
headstone.
Yeah.
There's also a custom to, when you go visit a cemetery, to put a stone on top. And the simple reason is because you're leaving a memento or whatever it is, that a marker that you visited, that you weren't left alone, that somebody visited you. However, there is this idea of life and the cycle of life and the vibrancy of taking something from the earth, putting it back to kind of like connect all the pieces. Something really beautiful and powerful. But anyway, I love tonight because we touched on a lot of things, but we also got into the idea that the lowest has an intelligence that even that intellectually you couldn't have known about that if you didn't feel it. Certain things like you have to just feel, you would never be able to explore otherwise. So that's a big idea tonight.
And the body's infallible, but My question is, when you listen to your inner vision, when you listen to your body, you know, fear can be a self-defeating thing, but fear can keep you alive. Oh, there's a drop off right there. There's a cliff. Oh, really? Oh, I was scared. I guess there was something there. You know, so that, you know, your body tells you stuff. Is that our soul talking, or is that our body talking? You know?
I'll answer your question. Well, I don't know if I'm going to answer, but I'll enhance it by citing another story. In the book of Daniel, it says that he was with a few guys, and suddenly they became very afraid. These other guys, they became like, you know, freaked out, but they didn't know why. But Daniel saw that there was an angel there, so he saw, and he knew. They didn't see, but they were still shook. And so, to add to your question, I'm not yet addressing it, but to add to your question, is it, you know, a knowledge that we have? Is it a subconscious thing, or is it even a spiritual thing? Like there might be a force around there that's kind of like warding us off, like the donkey of Balaam that's standing in the middle of the road, and the donkey is, you know, it doesn't proceed, and we're like, what's wrong with it? He's like, what's wrong with the donkey? He's beating the donkey. Meanwhile, the donkey sees, he doesn't see. It's possible that our soul sees things, not possible. Definitely that our soul sees things that our conscious mind doesn't see. And it's true that our body can feel things that our conscious mind doesn't know, but we just feel it.
It's not what the body knows.
I think it's the body keeps the score.
Maybe that's it.
I think that's what it is. The body keeps the score. I think
that's-
that's the name of it. The body keeps the score. Yeah.
So,
So I don't know if I answered your question, but I think that
yeah, I don't
it's a combination of all the factors. Like if we're afraid, it might be our head that's boxing us out, which is not good. But it might also be a sense of the body saying, no, this is not okay. And you're not going to know why, but trust me on this. Take my word for it. How do you differentiate between the two voices? How do you know what's a healthy voice to listen to and be cautious versus one that you should overcome and I'm going to push myself to do it anyway? I don't know.
Practice.
That's well, yeah, trial and error. But there's also the idea of having a trusted friend or mentor where you can consult. Like, okay, I'm hitting, you know, I'm hitting a wall or hitting a barrier. I'm getting some resistance. Is this a resistance that you think I should push through, or resistance that I should turn away? What's interesting is even in the last few Torah portions, we haven't discussed it, you know, in these classes, but there have been, you know, as the Jews were making their final approach to Israel, so there were several nations that didn't allow the Jewish people to enter the land, and they kind of just went around. And yet there are other times when the Jewish people were told to engage in war and to confront them. So when do you go around and when do you push through? Again, I mean, you could flip a coin, but there's probably a better way. I mean, trial and error, you'll figure out which things you should and shouldn't push against. I mean, some things are not worthy of pushing or not wise to push, but other times, you know, you make the best you make the best decision in the moment that you can, and maybe you consult with somebody. You know, you try to figure out what makes sense.
Or you wait for Yahweh to tell you.
Yeah, you wait for a sign. Exactly.
Wait for a sign. Yahweh will tell you when
Yeah.
to push through and when to go around.
I saw the sign, and it opened up my eyes. I saw the sign. Remember Asa Base? All right, that's it. We'll end on Asa Base. All right, thank you very much for joining me tonight for Torah studies. Hope you guys enjoyed. And we'll see you next time. All right, close it out. Oh, quick announcement, important announcement. Tomorrow night, we have our brand new seminar called How Israel Wins. It's about achieving lasting peace in Israel, and that is based on Torah sources, how to get peace and security and protect all lives. Absolutely, you can keep it. So that is coming up tomorrow night, and next Wednesday night. It is worth joining. It is going to be incredible. Playlist right here. Yeah, it's going to be great. All right, we'll see you
What class?
tomorrow night. We have a two-part series starting tomorrow night, and then next Wednesday it's called How Israel Wins. It's about Torah advice for dealing with challenges in the Middle East, but specifically focused on security and peace amongst Israel and its neighbors. So that's where we're going.
That's here.
That's right here.
In this room?
In this room. Yeah, we'll be on that side. All right. Good to see you guys.
Good seeing you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And see you guys as well. Lila Tov.